Hello and welcome to this Astranti video. Today we'll be looking at potential interview questions you may get when interviewing for a management accountant role. Now largely it will depend on who and what you're applying for, but we hope what we explain in this video will give you some idea for how to prepare for the big interview. So starting with question 1. A common and open question that can throw many. Why do you want to be a management accountant? It's a simple question on the surface, but it does require you to think deeply and introspectively about what it is you want to do as a management accountant. What the interviewer is crucially looking for is your ambition and growth potential with the business. If you come across as lackadaisical, that will also leave the impression on the interviewer that you don't intend to develop your skills or won't offer anything more to the business. Since part of being a management accountant is to be a decision maker, your enthusiasm for the role will be looked for. So show your interest by expressing what it is about accounting that interested you in the first place. Was it numbers? Right? An aptitude for maths? Was it a feeling that you are making big decisions at the company or at a business? Do you like managing people or analysing information, financial and non-financial? You'll need to sit and think about this yourself, but just bear those points in mind when looking to show the interviewers that you will add something to the business. The second question is more about your own understanding of management accounting from a skills perspective. Here the interviewer wants to make sure you understand why management accounting is important and that you've thought beyond the day-to-day operations of the role. You're not merely analysing information here. You're responsible for communicating it to others, and that is a hard thing to do. You've got to be able to explain why something's important. Maybe even add in an example of when you've shown good communication. Explain why you input interpersonal skills are important, because you have to work with both financial and non-financial staff members across the organization, and those things will be looked for. Question 3 then is, how would you respond to an ethical dilemma? So for example, maybe you spotted an error or a discrepancy in the company's financial statements or some other document that is used for reporting purposes. So what do you do? Well, I've put in, these 4 steps here that are broadly similar to how other professions may also address ethical dilemmas, but overall it's obviously recommended that you refer to your accounting profession body's code of ethics. So if you're with CIMA, you have the CIMA code of ethics, and that can offer you a good basis for how you should respond to some situations. Now, you will need to act accordingly, right? You have received a report, you can see there's an error in it. You need to figure out what caused the error. Was it intentional? Was it accidental? Figure this out for yourself. Then if you believe there is a problem and you have doubts about reporting it, refer back to your code of ethics. Remember, you have a responsibility to report it. Then of course raise it with a manager, go through the song and dance there. But what you need to do in this question, because what the interviewer is looking for is your response to ethical dilemmas, because a failure to respond to such issues could be disastrous for the business, and they don't want to hire someone who will hide errors, even errors that they themselves caused. You could have been the one responsible for the mistake, but you neglected to report it, and that would reflect very poorly on you. But if you spotted an error that you made yourself, and you reported it, and you explained it, then of course it shows that you have a good code of ethics and that you're willing to accept your mistakes, or at least try to report and make sure the mistakes of others are addressed. Question 4, how do you keep yourself up to date? The profession is always changing. New financial standards, technology approaches are always being introduced. The interviewer is trying to figure out if you are driven to learn and develop your own skills, whether that's through continuous professional development, whether it's keeping up to date with the current financial standards. This goes back to that first question again. You need to show you are driven to be a great management accountant, because if you're in a position where you're helping the business make decisions, they want to make sure the best decisions are being made, and some of that can depend on whether you keep yourself up to date on the goings-on in the accounting world. Is there new technology being introduced? Will that have a measurable impact on the business if it's introduced or not introduced? So explain how you develop your skills. Do you attend conferences? What ones? Do you take CPD courses? What's your commercial awareness like? Explain what maybe has interested you in the past year and how that might be impactful to your role or to the business that you're applying for. Question 5 then, what accounting software packages do you use is a common technical question you may get asked in the interview. There are of course numerous packages out there, and the business you're applying to may use particular packages that you've used in the past or you've heard of but you don't have personal experience with. Now this is your opportunity to show that you can not only use different accounting software, but you can explain why you use it. So for example, if you were to use Xero, right, you could explain that it's good for small businesses, if that's the environment you worked in previously, it helps them remain compliant with GAAP and IFRS, explain what the benefits of the software are, why you used it. Use your own examples if of course Xero doesn't apply to you. Show the interviewer that you know what you're talking about. They want to see that you have competent experience with accounting software. And if you can try and figure out what software that business is using and maybe trial it if possible to see how it works if you're unfamiliar with it. It can show that you're committed to try and improve your skills and learn new technology. And it also shows some initiative to the interviewer that you are willing to go the extra mile, figure something out, so that way then you can hit the ground running and provide some value to the company. Question 6. So, explain an accounting concept or process to the interviewer. What is a blank, right? And this could be anything. It's another technical question that can throw you off if you're not expecting it. What they want to hear from you is how you explain a concept. And it can be basic, it could be advanced, it could vary. It could be something as basic as accruals or matching or materiality. The complexity will partly be based on the seniority of the role you're applying for, obviously. What they want to hear is how well you communicate this concept to them. It shows them, going back to one of the earlier questions, that you can explain accounting or financial terminology to an audience. One day, you may have to explain the same thing to someone who is non-financial, and so they want to see how you handle yourself. So this is your opportunity to not only explain why you're a good communicator, but actually show it. So make sure you understand your technical terminology, your basic terminology for accounting, so that some questions like this don't throw you off. Then finally, how do you deal with unfavorable news? How do you break bad news to others? You may need to give an example of a time when you've had to do that. Now the purpose of this question is to see how you deal with challenges. Every business has a bad period where sales slump or something doesn't go according to plan. As the management accountant, you'll be expected to brief senior managers on what happened. What the interviewer wants to hear then is when such a circumstance arose and how you specifically dealt with it. So in such a circumstance, ideally, your senior managers or whoever is above you would probably like to hear not just the problem itself communicated to them, but why that situation arose in the first place. Senior managers don't just want to hear the problems, right? They want to know why it happened and what they can do about it. And when preparing for a question like this, have the phrase, always provide recommendations in the back of your head. What you need to do is always provide some sort of recommendation or explanation, because that shows that you've thought about the problem. You've thought about how to solve it. And you're not just merely presenting it. That shows some drive, some initiative for your role, for your position to the interviewer. And they're going to like that because don't forget, as a management accountant, you make decisions. You help people make decisions. And for that, you need to be able to not only present problems or solutions, but you need to explain why they are relevant to the business. And that requires a deeper thinking and understanding as well as experience. That brings us to the end. We've looked at 7 possible interview questions and what you need to think about when preparing your answers for them. And if you enjoyed that video and would like to see more from us, be sure to like and subscribe, and consider following us on social media like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, or go to our website linked in the description.